The first email arrived on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my small apartment in Bangkok, sipping coffee and checking messages before heading to teach my English class. The subject line caught my eye. Condolences for your family's loss. Confused, I opened it. The message was from an old family friend. Dear Rebecca, I just heard about Sarah's tragic accident in Thailand. What a devastating loss. Sarah was such a bright light, taken far too soon. Please know your family is in my thoughts during this difficult time. I read it 3 times, my coffee growing cold beside me. Sarah, they were talking about me. I was Sarah Mitchell, very much alive and definitely not involved in any accidents. More emails followed, each one expressing sympathy for my apparent death. Old classmates, distant relatives, former colleagues, all offering condolences to my family, particularly my sister Rebecca. My hands shook as I called my best friend Emma back home in Boston. Emma, something weird is happening, I said as soon as she picked up. I'm getting condolence emails about my own death. There was a long pause. Sarah, she said slowly, Rebecca told everyone you died in a motorcycle accident 2 weeks ago. She said you were traveling in rural Thailand and her voice cracked. Oh my God, you're alive. You're actually alive. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My own sister had declared me dead. Why would she do this? I whispered, though deep down, I already knew the answer. Our grandmother had passed away 6 months ago, leaving behind a substantial inheritance. The money was to be split equally between Rebecca and me, but there was a catch. We could only access our portions on our 30th birthdays. Rebecca had turned 30 last month. I wouldn't for another year. Sarah, Emma said gently, Rebecca claimed your portion of the inheritance. She had some lawyer declare you legally dead and provided documentation of your accident. The money was released to her last week. I sat down hard, my legs giving out beneath me. The inheritance was significant, nearly $2 million each. Rebecca had always been driven by money, always scheming for more, but this was a new low. Our relationship had been strained for years. Growing up, Rebecca was the perfect daughter, straight A's, prestigious internships, the right friends, the right clothes. I was the dreamer, the one who wanted to travel, to teach, to experience life beyond our wealthy Boston suburb. Our parents didn't understand my choices, but our grandmother did. She was the one who encouraged me to follow my heart, who supported my decision to teach English abroad. She must have known you'd find out eventually, Emma continued. What was she thinking? I looked around my modest apartment, at the photos on my walls capturing my adventures across Southeast Asia, at the stack of papers from my students. I built this life on my own terms, proud of choosing passion over money. But Rebecca had just stolen $2 million from me, and she'd done it by erasing my existence. Sarah? Emma prompted when I didn't respond. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath, my shock giving way to something colder, more calculated. Nothing, I said finally. Not yet. What do you mean? Rebecca thinks she's won. She thinks I'm too far away, too disconnected from home to find out or fight back. So I'm going to let her keep thinking that. Sarah. She's getting married in 3 months, right? Big society wedding at the Four Seasons. Yes, but... Perfect. I felt a smile spread across my face, though there was no warmth in it. I think it's time for a family reunion. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. I took a leave of absence from my teaching position, citing a family emergency. I didn't tell anyone I was coming home. Not my parents, not my old friends, no one except Emma. As far as the world was concerned, Sarah Mitchell was still dead. I spent hours combing through social media, tracking Rebecca's moves. She was living large with my inheritance, posting photos of expensive shopping trips and lavish parties. The wedding preparations were in full swing, with every detail meticulously documented online. She'd always wanted to be Boston's social queen, and now she had the money to make it happen. But what hit hardest were the posts about me. The carefully worded tribute to her beloved sister, taken too soon. The tearful remembrance at a charity event she'd organized in my memory. She was playing the grieving sister to perfection, using my death to boost her social standing even as she spent my money. Look at this, I said to Emma during one of our late-night video calls, sharing my screen to show her Rebecca's latest Instagram post. It was a photo of her trying on her wedding dress, caption reading, "Wish you were here to be my maid of honor, sister. I know you're watching from above." Emma made a disgusted sound. She's unbelievable. And your parents? They're just going along with this. I felt the familiar ache in my chest. They probably think it's easier this way. They never approved of my choices anyway. Having a dead daughter who died following her dreams probably fits their narrative better than a living one who disappointed them. Sarah, it's fine. I cut her off. None of that matters now. What matters is making sure Rebecca's perfect wedding has exactly the dramatic ending it deserves. I spent the next month laying low in Emma's apartment on the outskirts of Boston, venturing out only in disguise. I watched from afar as Rebecca's wedding drew closer, as she played the role of grieving sister and blushing bride with equal skill. Every time I saw her photo in the local society pages, every time I read another sympathetic comment about her loss, my resolve strengthened. The weekend before the wedding, I sat with Emma in her living room, finalizing the details of my plan. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, watching me scroll through the wedding website one last time. "It's not too late to handle this legally instead." I shook my head. She didn't just steal my money, Emma. She stole my identity, my existence. She turned me into a tragic story she could use for sympathy. If I handle this legally, she'll find some way to spin it, some way to make herself the victim. No, she needs to face what she did publicly in front of everyone who matters to her. Emma was quiet for a moment. "Your parents will be there," she said finally. "Are you ready for that?" I closed my laptop, thinking about the last time I'd seen them, 3 years ago before I left for Thailand. The disappointment in their eyes, the tight smiles, the passive-aggressive comments about wasting my potential. "They're as much a part of this as she is," I said quietly. They could have stopped her, questioned her story, done something. Instead, they probably helped her do this. They all decided it was easier if I was dead than living a life they didn't approve of. Well, they're about to learn that I'm very much alive, and I'm done letting them write my story. The morning of Rebecca's wedding dawned bright and clear. I stood in Emma's bathroom, staring at my reflection as I carefully applied my makeup. I'd chosen my outfit meticulously, a deep blue dress that I knew would photograph well. After all, this was going to be a moment people would remember. "The ceremony starts at 2, Emma said, leaning against the doorframe. "Are you sure you don't want me to go in with you?" I shook my head, pinning back my hair. "No, you being there would tip them off. I need an element of surprise. Just be ready with the car for a quick getaway if things get ugly." The Four Seasons Boston was decked out in full wedding splendor when I arrived. White flowers everywhere, champagne flowing, Boston's elite mingling in their finest. I slipped in through a side entrance, using the skills I'd learned from years of navigating crowded Bangkok streets to move unnoticed through the chaos of pre-wedding preparations. I found a quiet corner in the back of the ballroom where the ceremony would take place, partially hidden behind a massive flower arrangement. From there, I could see everything. The elaborate arch where Rebecca would say her vows, the rows of expensive chairs filled with Boston's social elite, the string quartet warming up in the corner. My parents arrived early, of course. Mom in an expensive designer dress, Dad looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. They worked the room like professionals, accepting congratulations and sympathy in equal measure. Such a happy day, though bittersweet without Sarah, I heard my mother say to someone, her voice carrying just the right note of practiced grief. Then I saw Rebecca. She was in the doorway, resplendent in white, surrounded by her bridesmaids. The dress probably cost more than I made in a year teaching, probably paid for with my money, I thought bitterly. She was beaming, basking in the attention, every inch the perfect bride. Places, everyone. The wedding planner called out, "We're starting in 5 minutes." I watched as guests hurried to their seats as the string quartet began the processional music as Rebecca's bridesmaids lined up in their matching pink dresses. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was firm. The ceremony began. I let Rebecca have her moment, let her walk down the aisle on our father's arm, let her take her place under the flower arch. I waited as the officiant welcomed everyone, as he spoke about love and commitment and new beginnings. Then he said the words I've been waiting for. "If anyone knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." I stepped out from behind the flowers. "I have a reason," I said, my voice clear and strong. "My sister declared me dead to steal my inheritance." The silence that followed was deafening. Rebecca's face went white as she turned toward my voice. The bouquet slipped from her hands, hitting the floor with a soft thud. Around us, guests were frozen in confusion, murmuring and craning their necks to see what was happening. "Sarah?" my mother whispered, her perfectly made-up face crumpling in shock. "Hello, family," I said, walking slowly down the aisle. "Sorry I'm late. Being dead really throws off your schedule." Rebecca's fiancé, Mark, was looking between us in confusion. "What's going on?" he asked. "Rebecca, what is she talking about?" I smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "Oh, she didn't tell you. Your bride had me declared legally dead 2 months ago. Fabricated documents about a motorcycle accident in Thailand. Also, she could claim my portion of our grandmother's inheritance early, $2 million. That's what my life was worth to her." The murmuring grew louder. I could see phones coming out, people recording. Rebecca's perfect society wedding was quickly becoming a different kind of social media sensation. That's not true," Rebecca stammered, but her voice was weak. We all thought." "You thought what?" I demanded, now standing just feet from her. "That I wouldn't find out, that I was so far away, so disconnected from home that you could just erase me, take what was mine, and build your perfect life on top of it." "Sarah," my father stepped forward, his face red. "This is hardly the time or place." "When would be a better time, Dad?" I cut him off. "When she's finished spending my money? When she's solidified her position as Boston's grieving socialite? Or maybe after she's done playing the tragic sister who lost her sibling to her reckless lifestyle?" I turned back to Rebecca, who seemed to be shrinking in her expensive white dress. "You know what the worst part is? You didn't just steal my money. You stole my existence. You turned me into a story, a tragic cautionary tale you could use for sympathy." "Well, surprise. I'm not a story. I'm not a tragedy. I'm your sister, and I'm very much alive." The ballroom had erupted into chaos. Guests were whispering frantically, phones were recording everything, and Rebecca's perfect wedding was unraveling thread by thread. "Mark," Rebecca turned to her fiancé, reaching for his hand. But he stepped back, looking at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "Did you do this?" he asked quietly. "Did you really have your own sister declared dead for money?" Rebecca's silence was all the answer he needed. He turned and walked away, ignoring her calls after him. I watched as my sister's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. The perfect bride, the perfect daughter, the perfect society woman. All of it washing away in a tide of shocked whispers and accusatory stares. "I have proof," I announced to the room, pulling out my phone. "Emails, documents, everything showing exactly what she did. I've already sent it to the police and our family lawyer. But I thought everyone here deserved to know exactly who they were celebrating today." My mother stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, please," she begged. "We can talk about this privately, as a family." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt a strange mix of pity and anger. We stopped being a family the moment you decided it was easier to believe I was dead than accept who I really am. The aftermath of Rebecca's wedding was exactly the kind of social scandal that Boston's elite would gossip about for years. I watched from Emma's apartment as the story exploded across social media, local news, and society cages. "Bride's dead sister Tirashi's DWDDIMG," read one headline. "Socialite ACCU's ED of FAKing sister's death for in he or ITNC," declared another. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from old acquaintances, distant relatives, and even journalists seeking comments. I ignored most of them, speaking only through the family lawyer as we began the process of reclaiming my inheritance and pressing charges for fraud. The police want to question Rebecca, Emma told me over coffee the morning after the wedding. Apparently, she's not answering her phone. I scrolled through my own phone, looking at a photo someone had captured of Rebecca's face the moment she saw me. The shock, the fear, the realization that her perfect facade was crumbling. It was all there, preserved forever. "She's probably hiding at our parents' house," I said, setting my phone down. That's where she always ran when things went wrong. I was right. Later that day, our family lawyer confirmed that Rebecca was indeed holed up in our childhood home, refusing to speak to anyone except our parents. The money she claimed from my death had been frozen, and criminal charges were pending. A week after the wedding, I received an unexpected visitor at Emma's apartment. It was Mark, Rebecca's almost husband. "I had to see you," he said, standing awkwardly in Emma's living room. I needed to understand. Did you know? Before the wedding, did you know what kind of person she was? I studied him carefully. He looked tired, defeated, nothing like the confident groom from the wedding. No, I answered honestly. I knew she was ambitious, materialistic even, but this, having me declared dead? I never thought she'd go that far. He nodded slowly. I've called off the engagement permanently, he said. I can't be with someone who would do something like that to their own sister. After he left, I sat on Emma's couch, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. The years of strained family dynamics, the pressure to conform, the gradual erosion of sisterly love until it became something cold and transactional. My parents finally reached out 2 weeks after the wedding. They wanted to meet, to talk things through as a family. I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a quiet cafe downtown. They looked older than I remembered, more fragile somehow. Mom's hands shook as she stirred her untouched coffee. Dad couldn't quite meet my eyes. We didn't know, Mom started, her voice barely above a whisper, about what Rebecca did. We really thought, that I died. I finished for her. And you didn't think to verify that? To ask questions? To maybe try calling me? We tried calling your old number, Dad defended weakly. It didn't work. I changed my number 2 years ago, I said. Did you try email? Social media? My school in Bangkok? Or was it just easier to believe I was dead? They exchanged glances, and I saw the truth in their silence. They had accepted Rebecca's story because it fit their narrative. The wayward daughter meeting a tragic end, proving them right about all their warnings and criticisms. What's going to happen to Rebecca? Mom asked finally. That's up to the police and the district attorney, I replied. The fraud she committed. It's serious. She could face jail time. Dad's face crumpled. She's your sister, he pleaded. Surely you don't want. Don't? I cut him off sharply. Don't ask me to protect her. She tried to erase me from existence for money. She doesn't get to play the sister card now. I stood up, gathering my things. I'm heading back to Bangkok next week, I told them. I have a life there, students who depend on me. The lawyer will handle everything else. You're leaving? Mom's voice cracked. But we just got you back. I looked at them both, feeling a strange mix of pity and resignation. You never lost me, I said quietly. You just never accepted who I really was. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Rebecca avoided jail time but was ordered to repay every cent she'd taken, plus substantial penalties. She was also required to make public apologies and correct every false statement she'd made about my death. I watched from Bangkok as she made these apologies, looking small and subdued in front of cameras, nothing like the confident socialite she'd once been. Her perfect world had crumbled, taking her reputation with it. 6 months later, I received an email from Rebecca. It was long, filled with apologies and explanations, talking about therapy and realizations and regret. She wrote about growing up in my shadow. Ironic, given how I'd always felt overshadowed by her, and how the pressure to maintain her perfect image had twisted her into someone she didn't recognize. I read it several times but didn't respond. Maybe someday we'd find a way to rebuild some kind of relationship, but for now, the distance felt right. I had my life in Bangkok, my students, my freedom. And most importantly, I had myself, alive, whole, and unwilling to be erased. Yesterday, I received another wedding invitation. Not for a society wedding at the Four Seasons this time, but for Emma's small ceremony on the beach. She'd written a note on it. This time, you'd better be there, alive and in person. I smiled as I marked the date in my calendar. Some bridges had burned beyond repair, but others had grown stronger through this ordeal. I had learned who truly cared about me, not as a society daughter or a tragic story, but as myself. In the end, Rebecca's attempt to erase me had only made me more real, more solid in who I was. She could try to write my ending, but instead she had only helped me begin a new chapter, one where I was the author of my own story. As I sit here in my Bangkok apartment, grading papers and planning lessons, I think about legacy and family and what it means to truly exist. Rebecca had thought she could erase me with paperwork and lies, but she had failed to understand something fundamental. Our existence isn't defined by legal documents or inheritance money or society's approval. We exist in the lives we touch, the choices we make, and the truth we choose to live. And no one, not even family, has the power to take that away.